Hey flock, welcome to the Howling Griffons Paint by Numbers Part 4, Red. In this video I'm going to be detailing the red aspects of the Howling Griffons armor. I finished the yellow in the previous video if you want to go back and watch that. I'll be using a couple colors here. MEPHISTON red, Wild Rider red, REIKLAND FLESHSHADE, and I'll also be using some P3 KHADOR red base. So this is the one place I'm going to deviate from using Citadel brand colors for this model. Well, that's not entirely true because I also used Reaper Noir Black for some of the base coats. Now this is the same color, this is the MEPHISTON red that's already present on the model, and I'm really just putting that down for some touch-ups. I don't know that I'll need it, but it's good to have ready on the palette. We don't need the FLESHSHADE yet, so let's just leave that alone, rather than leaving an open FLESHSHADE on the table. Now, if you've watched any of my other videos where I paint red, I've probably used KHADOR red base in almost all of them. And the reason for it is that it's a paint that is very, very highly saturated. It produces a very bright, colorful red, but it's a little bit on the translucent side. So what that lets you do is play with it by taking a lighter area, such as some Wild Rider red, and then filtering, which is using a very, very thin glaze of the KHADOR red base, to just kind of punch the red up on it. Sorry, I'm going to add one more color to this mix as well. I'm going to use a little bit of CADIAN FLESHTONE for some of the extreme highlighting. Let's get a little bit of that on the palette there as well. So I'm going to start by just blocking in highlights with the Wild Rider red. Right now, these are going to look a little bit almost just incorrect, you know. This color is a little bit maybe on the pink side, and it doesn't quite take the MEPHISTON red where we really want these highlights to go, but that's where the KHADOR red is going to come in. I'm kind of just focusing this, you know, towards the sort of upper facing surfaces. You can see it's got a little bit more of an orange tint than I'd really like it to have. You know, it doesn't quite look correct as the highlight on this, but that's okay, we'll fix that in a moment. It just doesn't quite step as naturally as the yellow did. You know, the progression from Averland Sunset to Uriel Yellow to Flashgitz Yellow seemed very natural, seemed very intentional. Those colors really do build well on each other. In this case, it kind of doesn't. It kind of goes the wrong way. It's a little too orange. It almost makes it look like there's like a sunny day outside, reflecting a little bit of a bright light off of the model, which if that's what you're going for, great, but I'm not really interested in sunny day marines. That's not my jam. Yeah, I just said that. Sorry. So with the helmet here, I'm sort of trying to bring the highlights kind of a little bit to the front of the helmet to create a little more focus on the face. And I will be finishing up the red with some Agrax Earthshade as well in a later step. Sort of an overall detailing process on the model, so if it still looks a little flat after we're done here, it will gain some volume later, some, you know, deeper shadows. So it's okay if it just doesn't look, you know, perfect yet. If it looks a little bit off, it looks a little bit, you know, flat or maybe even a little bit dull, it will pick that up a little bit later. Alright, let's get a nice sort of rounded highlight on the top of the shoulder pad here. I'm just going to feather it out a bit. This is one of the places where it was really handy to have the MEPHISTON red on the palette. I'm going to want to just kind of blend a little bit of that back because that's, you know, a very, very stark transition I've just added. Alright. And then we'll just get in the fingers a little bit here. We don't want to do too much with them, but we can kind of come along this edge, the back of the palm, back of the hand, and just maybe pick out the top of each finger. And here we're just going to kind of hit the top of the thumb there. That's really about it. So there's our first step, kind of not great highlights. And I'm going to take a little bit of that CADIAN FLESHTONE and mix it about half and half with the Wild Rider red. I'm just going to bump up a few of these a little bit further. Not doing a lot. I'll be doing that sort of back blending with the red here in just a minute. Realized I kind of just mentioned it out of sequence. If there's anywhere beyond this you want to add a really specific highlight to, a little bit of CADIAN FLESHTONE will do the job. I don't think it's necessary on this model personally, and I'm not going to, but if that's something you'd like to do, that, or, you know, mix a little bit of white in as well. CADIAN FLESHTONE does sort of, it's a little desaturated, it's a little bit on like the flatter, grayer side of this spectrum. So if you want something with a little more vibrancy, you can use white instead to lighten it up. But that will start to give you basically very, very pink tones. Alright, that's good enough there. So first I'm going to take a little bit of the MEPHISTON red, just pull it to the side, and grab a little water from the side of my wet palette. I want just something pretty thin. You know, I should be able to see through it, so that might not even be thin enough yet. So let's grab a little more water. I'm just going to swirl that on the side of the palette here and check it again. It's a little better. I'm just going to use that, kind of the side of the brush and pull it down from over that big blocky highlight on the shoulder into the red. And then with most of it off the brush now, just going to kind of smooth out that transition just a little bit, maybe even buff it away with my thumb. Okay, so from here I want to start working the KHADOR red base in. I'm going to pick up just a little bit of water, just get that on the palette there. I'm picking up just a little bit of the KHADOR red base and bringing that into it. And I don't need a lot, and I want it to be, you can see that's actually already, you know, a little more translucent than the MEPHISTON red was. I'm going to bring that, sort of leaving, you know, the uppermost point of these highlights alone, in most cases anyway. And then just kind of gliding the brush over it to tint it with the red. So you can see at the boot here, I left this tiny little sort of just central area alone. But with the sole here, I'm going to do a little bit more. And now here we've got some rough brushwork. I didn't really blend that very well. So we're going to just bring a little more the KHADOR red into it. See if that smooths that out for us, hides it underneath the transition of all the reds. You see it's very quickly punching the red up into a more vibrant look. KHADOR red base is one of those colors I kind of consider one of my secret weapons. You know, it's one of those things that just I consider a must-have in my toolkit. Because painting red comes up, you know, very often in this hobby. And it's just, you know, to borrow a term from gaming, it's like a force multiplier. You know, it just increases the potency of whatever red work you're doing so much so that it's really weird not having it. Now, reds are quite punchy now, but they're also a little bit flatter than maybe we wanted them to be. So you can start to work your highlights back in again if you want. Easy way to do that is just come back in with a little bit of Wild Rider red. Now you can just be really sparing with it. And I'm just going to hit a couple of points here. We don't need too much of it anymore. See the transitions with it now seem a little more natural. You know, they're a little bit more subtle as well, because it's kind of working back into itself where just the KHADOR red base is kind of tinted a little bit. So it's it just feels like a more natural progression of tones now. Alright, let's go ahead. We'll just do the same on the backpack, and then we'll carry it forward. So again, starting with Wild Rider Red. Kind of doubling up on the Wild Rider right now because it just felt really dark. Okay, and now the Wild Rider CADIAN FLESHTONE mix. We can actually just make a little bit more there because it's not a lot left. So I'm emulating a lot of the same process I used on the yellow where, you know, each lighter color focuses more and more towards the top. And I mean, that makes sense that, you know, the two opposing colors on a quartered color scheme would at least be painted in the same fashion, if not with, you know, obviously the same colors. Now I come in with a little bit of the KHADOR red base here and start to tint all of this. Get a sense for just how powerful a tint this color really is. A little more careful when I get towards this middle area. You can see I kind of slow my strokes down, leave a little more room for them. You know, here I'm not really happy with how smooth this transition is, so I'm bringing a little bit of MEPHISTON red back and just coming around the edge, hoping that'll be enough to smooth it out. If it's not, we'll come back in after. So next up is just giving this a little bit of depth, and I'm going to do that with some REIKLAND FLESHSHADE. So I'm being a little bit sparing with this. I'm really working it around details instead of just, you know, smearing it across the surface of everything and letting it work itself out. You know, with the KHADOR yellow, I think I was a little more voluminous with it. Might be the right word. You know, I really kind of hit almost all of the yellow surfaces with it. Because I'm actually pretty happy with most of the color of the red as it is. I just want to increase the depth of it a little bit. especially areas like this where there really wasn't a lot of opportunity to highlight because they're all sort of recessed areas. Alright, there we go. So I'm going to let that dry. Alright, let's get that REIKLAND FLESHSHADE on the backpack as well. Can't forget that. You know, this has a little more of a, like a saturation of detail. There's a lot of little small fiddly bits here. So I'm applying this a little more liberally to the backpack than I did to the rest of the body. Still a pretty quick application there. Alright, and there we have the red. So carrying forward, I'm going to be working on the metallic areas next, followed by the different black areas, so the bolt pistol holster, the little pouches, and the bolter itself, and then finally finishing up with the power sword, the eye lights, and the little vents on the backpack. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this video. There's plenty more here on YouTube. You can also join me twice a week at twitch.tv/epicduckstudios on Thursday and Sunday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern, where I do stream my painting live. If you want to support the show, you can do that at patreon.com/epicduck. Even giving as little as $1 a month helps keep the lights on and the paint flowing. You can also help by hitting subscribe here on YouTube or sharing this video with some friends. Thanks a lot!